What Mercedes just announced is insane. Instead of fighting for the Constructors' Championship, Toto Wolff would rather have a race win. I guess that prize money isn't important when you've got enough. Let's dive in. Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff believes the team would rather win a Formula 1 race this year than beat Ferrari to second place in the Constructors' Championship. What are your thoughts about this statement? Let us know in the comments below. The German car manufacturer has had a difficult 2022 campaign, and despite one pole position this year, is in danger of not winning a race for the first time since 2011. However, due to its consistency and latest developments, it is now in a position to pass Ferrari for second place in the Constructors' battle after Red Bull. In the overall standings, Mercedes is currently in third place, 40 points behind its Maranello rival. Despite the fact that finishing as runner-up would be a positive conclusion to a year that had such challenges to overcome, Wolff claims that he would rather like to close the season with a victory rather than moving up in the Constructors' Championship standings. The win would be proof that our car is back to fight for wins, he said when asked why he felt that way. P2 could also be because the others dropped the ball and you're just scoring more points. While Wolff is not opposed to overtaking Ferrari in the points table, he believes that the car's performance on track is a greater indicator of the team's success. It would definitely be some consolation, because Ferrari had the quickest car at the beginning of the season, he said about the runner-up spot. Finishing ahead of them would be great, but again, it's not our main priority. The main priority is to understand the car and have a quick automobile on the track. In the recent United States and Mexican Grand Prix, Mercedes had two of its finest chances of the year to take that victory, but tyre strategy decisions hurt those chances on both occasions. However, given the magnitude of the team's challenges at the start of the season, Wolff is pleased with the level of progress made, even if he is disappointed by the missed opportunities in Austin and Mexico. The thing is, we're racers, and the moment we can kind of see it in front of us, we just want to grab it, he said. Therefore, there is always a sense of frustration, but we have come from such a long way, and here we are. We're racing for a win, racing for both cars on the podium. The Ferraris are behind us, so you need to stay humble of what we achieved while still reaching for the stars. Given that it appears to be switching concepts, Mercedes believes it has a clear understanding of what went wrong with its W13 this year, and what has to be addressed for 2023. Wolff warns against becoming complacent about the modifications being guaranteed to put it back in the lead of the field. "I'm never confident," he said. "I always see the glass half empty, so there's nothing to really see it positive. I've just heard 9 wins in a row for Red Bull, so there's no reason to be overwhelmed with finishing second or fourth. We have a long way to catch up. We have the winter. I think we're doing some good development on the car. Some of the things we're finding might be bigger steps than just adding a few steps of downforce, but we're giving it whatever we have and more in order to bring us back into the position to fight for a championship." Mercedes would rather win a race than finish second, but this looks unlikely. James Vowles, head of strategy at Mercedes, predicts that Ferrari will rebound in the Formula 1 Brazilian Grand Prix, making life harder for his team than it did in Mexico. Due to considerations made by the Italian team to maintain dependability at the high-altitude track last weekend, Ferrari visibly lost its form, giving Mercedes the opportunity to challenge Red Bull. Brazil's altitude is still a problem, but it's not as severe, and the reduced downforce levels won't help the W13 as much as they did in Mexico City. According to Vowles, the Brackley team also benefited from an update package that was started at the US Grand Prix and then finished with a new front wing in Mexico. "I think there are a few factors that came together at the same time," he noted in a Mercedes debrief video. "The first is that we put a large update kit on in Austin, and that did move us forward, and that evidence was even more present really in Mexico. The second is that we are very good when we're running maximum downforce and others running maximum downforce as well. And this was evident in Zandvoort, in Budapest for example, and is no different in Mexico. In Mexico, everyone really was running their maximum rear wing, the maximum amount of downforce that they could get away with. I think also Austin being a very tricky, windy conditioned race meant that perhaps we didn't see the full extent of the performance update, whereas in Mexico there was no real wind to speak of. We have a car now that seems to be balanced and it's working well. How it performs across the next two is hard to tell. Obviously, in the case of Mexico, it looked a little bit like that Ferrari actually dropped back, and I suspect that won't be the case as we move forward. Valls acknowledged that it was challenging to forecast the form for the last 2 races. With their current data, they're unable to tell if they will be close to the front again. "I think this will really vary track on track," he said. "Ferrari won't be that far back and away from us as they were in Mexico. They'll be closer in Brazil and in Abu Dhabi, and it will be a very close fight between our 2 teams. In terms of relative to Red Bull, they still hold the edge relative to us. I don't think it's quite the 3 tenths they outqualified us by, but it will be a few tenths across the next few races." Do you think Mercedes will be close to the front again? This would mean that their upgrades are working perfectly and they're finally being able to close the gap to Red Bull and Ferrari. And as the season end draws near, Valls acknowledged that the general trend is positive. "We're getting closer and closer. Compared to where we were at the beginning of the season, where at times we were struggling to get out of Q1 or into Q3, to where we are now, which is we are within a whisker of fighting for our first win. We have moved forward. In Brazil, it's a track that both of our drivers have typically gone well at, and there's a sprint race where we can pick up more points. And when you have a car within a few tenths of your competition, you can make things happen." But according to him, the team will probably fall short in Brazil, to both Red Bull Racing and Ferrari. So even though they updated the car, Mercedes still feel they haven't quite got that edge back yet. "It's really hard to tell before we go to an event, but I don't think we'll still enjoy the same level of competitiveness. It won't be much different, but it might be a slight step backwards, and I certainly expect Ferrari to be closer than they were in Mexico. Yes, it's higher altitude than normal. I think it's around 700 meters compared to sea level, but it's also a factor of what the track layout is and what downforce level people are at. As I mentioned previously, we really function well on these high downforce circuits, and that's not what we have coming up in Brazil." After closing the distance in Mexico, Valls emphasized that the goal is to remove Ferrari from second position in the Constructors' Championship. "It's very clear what our internal goal is," he said. "We're here to finish second in the championship, and every single race that we can start pulling that points gap down is a success. In Mexico, we took just 13 points out of them, so there's still 40 left to go with 2 races. Fortunately, one of those is a sprint race. I think we have a package now, unlike the beginning of the season or the mid-season, that can really bring the fight to them. But 40 points is a tremendous ask. It will need us really having everything perfect, everything right, and Ferrari perhaps to give us opportunities to open the door for us to pick up second. What I can tell you is that we're not giving up until the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi." Do you think Mercedes will be able to win one of the last 2 races? And will they be able to surpass Ferrari for that second place in the Constructors' Championship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Enjoyed the video? Subscribe to see more of our content, and like the video so we can reach more people on YouTube. As always, thanks for watching.